Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. In today's episode, we are tackling a question or we are answering a question that probably so many of you have thought about, have wondered about, which is what happens to your weight after you heal your relationship with food, after you start that journey to food freedom? Let's be real. Most of us at some point have believed that fixing our eating habits, going on another diet was the magic key to hitting that perfect weight, to hitting that or achieving that perfect body goals. We focus so much on restrictions, lose all of our joy, but in the end don't see the results that we expected to see with such approach. But what if I told you that healing your relationship with food doesn't just change the number on the scale, it actually changes everything? In today's episode, we are exploring what actually happens to your weight, your energy, your confidence once you start healing or once you heal the relationship with food, once you stop obsessing over food and start approaching it with more freedom and trust. For this, I will be sharing insights into why this shift matters, what will happen to your body when you release those restrictive habits, and most importantly, how to begin this journey for yourself. So let's get started. For this, let's start talking about the approach that so many of us have been following, that so many of us have been taught, which is control and restriction. So it's when we are stuck in that diet culture where the focus is always on weight, eat less, work out more, and stick to a rigid plan. And yes, it sounds so simple, right? But in reality, this approach most often backfires. And it's what leaves us frustrated without achieving those results that we so desperately want. And this is because, or here is why. First of all, this approach causes emotional stress and leads to lots of cortisol inside your body. Because restricting food creates stress, and this is not just emotionally, but also physically. Your body perceives the restriction as a threat, and hence the cortisol levels spike. And the high cortisol in your body then leads to an increased hunger, increased cravings, and increased fat storage, which is then making it ironically much more difficult to lose weight, right? Then there's also the cycle of guilt and binging that happens when we follow an approach of restriction. When you label foods as good and bad, you create guilt around eating, because then when you end up eating something that you shouldn't eat, you feel guilty, you feel bad about yourself. And this most often triggers binges. And those binges then lead us to, consume excess calories, followed by even stricter restriction, even more rigid rules, which, first of all, causes, again, stress, which, makes it harder to lose weight, which also with the overconsumption of calorie creates a cycle that is mentally and physically exhausting. And such diet culture approach also leads to a disconnection from your body. Over time, you lose the touch with your hunger and fullness cues and lose touch with your cravings. And instead of listening to your body, you are relying on external rules, which can feel overwhelming and which most often are unsustainable. So think about those rules where even though you're hungry, you just limit your calorie intake or no carbs after dark and all those things. So we rely on external things to dictate on how much we should eat and lose that touch with our body on when we are full, when we are hungry. And of course, restrictions, as we know, leads to stress, leads to more cravings. And it's like a complete mess that happens with such an approach. And that's why it is hard to lose weight. That's why it is hard to reach your goals, and it has nothing to do with you or your willpower. So I just, of course, want to mention this because this is really important, because such approach often diminishes our self-worth and we start feeling like a failure when we shouldn't, when it's not our fault per se. All of this, what I just mentioned, adds up to frustration, burnout, and feeling out of control. And this is not exactly the recipe for a healthy, happy life, is it? So what's then the alternative? Well, it's healing your relationship with food. This means letting go of that diet mentality, letting go of restriction and rules, and learning to approach food with trust, balance, and of course, most importantly, freedom. And here's the surprising part of this. When you do this, your weight most often settles into its natural, healthy range, without all the struggle. So let me explain why this works. First of all, your body regains trust when you shift to food freedom or healing relationship with food, because when you stop restricting and start nourishing your body, it begins to trust that it's getting what it needs. There's no more restriction and stress around it and the fear of not being nourished that your body has that then leads to your cortisol rise. So in turn, your cortisol levels drop, your digestion improves, and your metabolism becomes much more efficient. And on top of that, it works because you're also breaking the cycle of restriction and binging. Healing your relationship with food doesn't mean you're never craving chocolates or chips again, but instead, because you're no longer depriving yourself, those cravings lose their intensity, they lose their control over you. So you can start to enjoy all foods in moderation without feeling out of control, without the binges and the overeating. And once your body feels safe and nourished, it ends up finding its natural set point. This is the way that's healthiest for you. It's where your body thrives. And yeah, this might not look like the number you had in mind, but it's truly where your body thrives and where you will eventually feel at your best as well in terms of energy and all of that. But the most powerful transformation isn't even about the scale. It's about how you feel. Without the constant mental chatter around food and weight, you free up so much energy for the things that really matter in your life. And you're most probably able to build the confidence and self-love and trust to help you do more things that you always wanted to do, the things that you enjoyed, but might have been putting off because of the diet mentality, because you didn't feel worthy, because you didn't feel like you could look good enough and all of that. So it frees up all that mental clutter that keeps you from being happy. Think about it, like the approach of restriction, has it led you to feeling good, to what you thought it would? Probably not, but by healing your relationship with food, you are able to clear that mental chatter that brings so much more ease into your life, that helps you with the confidence and finally doing the things that you have been putting off once you reach that goal of the perfect body and all of that. I struggled with my relationship with food and my body for years, years of yo-yo dieting, feeling exhausted, feeling stuck, hating myself, hating my body. And yeah, I have to admit, at first, letting go of the restriction of the food rules felt terrifying. And that's actually one of the most common fears when it comes to healing your relationship with food. It's the uncertainty around weight changes, about how it changes if we stop restricting, if we stop dieting. And I've been there, believing that without rigorous control, without following those rules and whatnot, I would not achieve or maintain a healthy weight, or maybe it was not even a healthy weight, just achieve that dream body, that body goals and all of that. However, my journey showed me that this fear wasn't necessary. For me, the result was I lost those stubborn pounds. My weight started to stabilize. But more importantly, I felt much more energized. I started to feel more confident. I started to feel more happy and free from that constant battle with food. And in the end, that freedom was worth so much more than any number on the scale. Healing your relationship with food often leads to a healthier weight because it involves understanding why we eat and not just what we eat or how much we eat, leading to a more balanced approach that supports our bodies, that supports our well-being and supports, of course, our mental health as well. So then the question comes up about how can you begin this process? So here are 5 practical steps to help you get started. First of all, reframe your goals. So instead of focusing on weight, shift your attention to how you want to feel. Do you want to feel more energized, or do you want better digestion, so feel lighter after eating? Do you want to feel more peace around food? Start letting those goals guiding your decision. For me, also, what helped was really focusing on improving my gut health and hormone health to actually reach those goals of feeling more energized, feeling more light after eating. So when I started choosing healthier options and all of that, I didn't do it with the focus on weight in my mind. I didn't do it because, well, this food helps me lose weight and all of that, and this calorie and that. But I started approaching my eating habits in terms of doing what makes my body feel good, what supports my hormone, what makes me feel energized, or whatever the goal is. So for me, this is what helped me stick to my habits with much more ease, to stick to those healthier habits with much more ease. Then step number 2 is to listen to your body. So pay attention to your hunger and fullness cues. Before you eat, ask yourself, am I physically hungry, or is there an emotional need that I'm trying to fill? And important here is that both are valid. You just want to start noticing the difference so that over time you can, satisfy those needs in the right way. So, of course, at the beginning, it's maybe hard to really identify directly that this is an emotional need or physical hunger because we've been so out of touch with our bodies. But over time, it becomes so much easier so that when you stop and realize that it's actually an emotional craving that you have and that maybe you feel lonely and, it leads to cravings of food because of the emotional eating, the habits you had. But over time, you're going to realize, okay, this is the feeling of lonely. Maybe I call a friend, and you are able to fulfill that need in a more supportive, in a more healthy and, in the right way, actually, because of course, food just is like a Band-Aid that makes you feel good in the moment, but doesn't solve the problem of feeling lonely or whatever the emotion is, right? Then important is to let go of restrictions. So allow all foods to fit into your diet. And this doesn't mean eating cake all day, every day. It means giving yourself permission to enjoy a slice when you want it without the guilt, because without the guilt, as we learned, there is less likely an urge for a binge. And yeah, it sounds scary to allow yourself all foods after all the years of restriction. But again, it doesn't mean eating those bad or those foods that we thought are bad all the time. Because again, if your goal is to feel energized, you wouldn't be eating cake all day because you would eventually realize how sluggish it makes you feel because of the sugar crashes. So it's really just about enjoying foods without the guilt that could potentially trigger a binge, enjoying foods whenever you want them, and while keeping those healthier, more sustainable goals in mind. Then also focus on mindful eating. So start simply by paying more attention to the experience of eating. Enjoy the textures, the flavors, the sensations, which can help you slow down and get more pleasure from your meals without feeling the need to control every aspect of your meal. It's actually what helped me a lot when it comes to managing my cravings, paying fully attention to when I'm eating chocolate, fully enjoying it so that I don't kind of miss out on the experience, that I don't think about, oh my God, this has so many calories and all of that. So I talked more about this in previous episodes. I will be sure to link them below, or you can check it out here. And the last step that is worth mentioning, or that is important, is create a supportive environment, because healing isn't just about food. It's also about mindset. Surround yourself with people, with tools that support your journey. This could be journaling. This could be working with a coach, joining a community where you feel seen and understood, because changing how you relate to food is significant. And it's certainly not something you have to do alone. Finding a community or professional support like a health coach or therapist can provide the guidance tailored to your need. They can help you set goals that are healthier for you, that focus on health, your well-being, and not just weight. And also consider doing more activities that nourish your life in other ways. So things like hobbies, exercise, meditation, whatever brings you joy, because this can improve your overall satisfaction and happiness, which then reduces that emotional reliance on food. So we want to also make sure to fulfill our needs from the beginning so that those cravings don't come up. So just do more things that bring you joy, and not just, especially don't just wait on your weight to change in order to start doing certain things. To wrap up, I want to leave you with this. Healing your relationship with food isn't just about weight, it's about freedom. It's about waking up every day feeling nourished, confident, and at peace with your body, at peace with yourself, at peace with where you are and who you are. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's one small step that you're going to take to start healing your relationship with food? So send me a message over on Instagram or send me an email. I'd really love to hear what you have to say. And I would, of course, love to cheer you on. And with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe and share this with someone who might benefit from it, someone who's tired of the dieting cycle and ready to experience true freedom with food. So thank you so much. Lots of love and see you next time.